Hello, Davenport. Good afternoon on Tuesday. Thank you for chiming in and listening. So today I want to change it a little bit. You've seen that we've had guests in the past to talk about issues particular to Davenport or to folks. So as we know, with this COVID pandemic, a lot of things have changed, and most of you are doing great and helping out and being a part of the solution. And one major part we know, the governor just recently announced that the schools basically are not going to be working as we know it through the end of the year, but are still engaged with our students. So I wanted to take a moment and invite Dr. Kobilski to come and share his thoughts with him as the superintendent and leader of our community school district and the thousands of students that participate in our school system. He and his staff and the teachers and everyone else are doing a lot of things trying to engage and keep as best we can the learning scenarios going. So they're moving into a phase where now we're expanding that. And so, Doctor, thank you for giving some of your time to talk with Davenport, as I know you have. You guys are, and I, as a teacher, watch and learn and participate, but I wanted to have another venue for people to hear from you as our leader in our school district. So thank you very much for coming.
Mr. Mayor, appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, so a few questions, thoughts. We have parents here in this building and other places and who we talk to. So you probably get the same things, but I'll just ask them in no particular order. So first one, parent was talking to me and said, we know we're working the Google Classroom, and that's how kind of teachers and students are going together. But as we go forward, what do you think the extensions of the information or slides or videos reference that will look like?
So as I had mentioned in the videos that I've been producing for our staff as well as our community and parents, we've been layering our work and ramping up and getting up to speed as a school system. One of the things we heard from our new state superintendent is the work that we're asking school systems to do would normally take months, if not years, to accomplish, to go with a full online learning platform. And we've been working on that in terms of building our capacity as a system, making sure that our teachers have an understanding of what online learning looks like, what they can do, what their responsibilities are. Quite frankly, right before the pandemic, less than 2% of our teachers had any experience in actually teaching an online course, which meant there was a lot of adult learning that had to take place moving into that. And fortunately, our teachers, being the professionals that they are, they jumped right into that. And as a result, we were able to launch our Google platform this week, which is basically week 3 after spring break. So it was quite the accomplishment to do that in 3 weeks when normally it would take a long period of time. But our plan now is to continue to build on the work that we've done. So this week our teachers are engaging their students. Now it's more than just getting your kids connected to the platform. Now it's actually presenting some learning opportunities and instruction. And we're doing that in 2 ways, with actual face-to-face, online, what I would call teleconferencing, what people would be very comfortable with, where the students can see the teacher, vice versa, classmates can see each other and have a little bit of that social interaction around a concept, around a content area, around a lesson, around a topic. But we've also learned that our families don't always have the same time during the day to get together and connect with their teachers. So we're asking our teachers to also embed some videos in our Google Classroom format, so that a parent can sit down with their child in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, and engage in a lesson, whether that's a math lesson, a reading lesson, a science lesson, whatever the case may be. And we're going to continue to build a library of those videos over the course of the next 5 weeks that parents can tap into anytime they can to get that learning experience. And we're also going to add, with each passing day, an additional teleconferencing opportunity to connect with our kids. So trying to make it look as much as what it would be normal in a classroom setting that would be face-to-face in our brick and mortar schools. It's taken us a little bit of time to ramp up, but I'm pleased that we're ramping up very quickly right now.
Thank you. I see from the outside, both from the city perspective, but then as a teacher, I am impressed, and I hear the conversations in this building and out in the community, and it's kind of a theme, I think, that's going around here and probably in many places, but I certainly see it in Davenport. The ability or willingness or just how can I help? What can I do? What can we do to engage in whatever, whether it's here at city council, you would, in the school district, that the attitude of, okay, we understand the environment and we're concerned, but at the same time, we know we have to continue and in your case, engage and learn with the students and your staff. Our case with the city stuff, but the attitude is, got it, understand, change, and be flexible, and then how do we do it, and what do you, and I'm impressed by the time that it's taken you to gather all this and talk with people, and then present a project that I think most people understand, even someone like me who's new to this online. It's interesting, many of us, I was talking with folks, they take online courses sometimes, us adults, especially as we get older, but we haven't taught online courses, and it's a little different. But it's a little professional development, and at the same time, working with our students. So thank you for that, and how well you've adapted.
Thank you.
The state's talked about voluntary and mandatory, and I know you've talked about that type of learning. As we move forward, do you see any changes to that?
Quite frankly, we've been proceeding as though we were anticipating the outcome that our brick and mortar learning opportunity was going to end this school year. And as a result of that, we've prepared our application for the state. Even though we applied for a voluntary status, we've been preparing behind the scenes to be able to make the move to the required platform. It's far more extensive. There are more requirements that come with the required platform. First and foremost, our concern was to make sure that we had accessibility throughout our entire community for all of our students. Had we had that from the very beginning, we would have gone required right from the very start, because our teachers were able to assimilate to the neurolearning platform very quickly, but our main issue was connectivity with students. So now that we're increasing the connectivity and the access points for all of our students, I do see a day very soon where we can transition quickly into a required platform, which would allow students to get grades, which would allow students to get credit, and at the same time help parents with that little motivation or factor to say, this is not required, you have to do this, as opposed to, it's, as a parent myself, I understand, motivating students to say, well, it's voluntary, why am I doing this? I think the required piece will help from that motivation standpoint, but also by going to the required platform, it allows us to engage new learning, which the voluntary platform doesn't, which means we can start fourth quarter classes, start those classes this year, get a good 5 weeks under our belt, and figure out what that remediation looks like either at the beginning of the school year or over the summer, and get some flexibility with that.
Roger, thank you. All right. You guys, in my opinion, have done a great job with some of the things because we didn't plan a pandemic. We didn't think about that, okay, today we're teaching in our schools and 2 days later we're not teaching in our schools, and what do we do? And some of the outside things like meals that students depend on. Another thing that I and many people in the community are impressed upon were the immediate adapting to the needs for food for many of ours. As we know, many of our children in our school district are on free and reduced lunches, and they struggle with getting a good meal every day. And you guys immediately, this was really impressive, set up that program, adjusted it, provided it, and I think we're still doing it. And so as we move forward, what does that look like?
Well, it'll continue on. Essentially, again, very proud of the food service team. They were able to ramp this up very quickly to scale, where in a matter of a week, we were serving over 10,000 meals a day, which is an extraordinary number to ramp up that quickly and take it to scale that quickly. So I couldn't be more proud of the work that they've done. That need is not going away. As a matter of fact, that need is growing as the economic impact of this pandemic is starting to kick in for our constituents. So, and we're ramping up to meet that need, and we have the capability to do so. So I will tell our citizens that are in need of that service, it will continue. It'll continue through the summer. We serve summer meals. That's that's been our model for years, so that's nothing new that we have to manage. But certainly, we realize how important nutrition is to our community, and we will continue to do our part at whatever scale that needs to look like to continue into the next school year also. So we're ready for this, and we've been managing it, and if the need changes anywhere along the way, I'm sure we can adapt to whatever that change needs to be.
Thank you. That was impressive, and many people in the community appreciate the work that, again, the timing and the flexibility, immediately we're adapting and changing and making this happen for kids. So thank you for that.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
You made a very excellent point. Everyone in this community, especially the employees of the district, our parents, our community partners, how can we help is the theme. What can we do to help? Because we're all in this together. We're all going to come out of this together at the end. But, the more we work together and the more we support each other like we have been these last few weeks, I think as a community, we've weathered this much better than some of the other communities that I've seen across the nation.
Right, I agree. So parents are asking, I'm sure you're hearing much more than we do, but, I want to be involved, and that's a great thing, and probably in this environment is getting them to be more involved. Sometimes we challenge ourselves to get the parents involved, but what I've seen in others they're asking now.
Right.
And they're really pushing, what can I do? So any guidance, other than, some of the things you've already talked about, what could they do to help with this?
Well, and that's the exciting part about this, because we really have an opportunity for families now to reconnect. We've led such a frenetic life the last couple of decades with people coming and going, and some of that results in the lack of contact when it comes to parents and their children with regard to what's happening in schools. Well, here's an opportunity where we could take a crisis and turn it into an advantage, where parents can sit down and ask their students, all right, so what are we going to talk about today? What did your teacher present in the lesson today? Could you tell me about it? Could you teach me what you just learned today? Very simple questions. You don't have to understand all the concepts that are out there, but just ask the questions so that they have an opportunity to reteach to you, so that you know that they have an understanding of what they've just learned. Simply sitting down with your young ones and reading a book. We know those are huge opportunities. If you have students that are acclimated to a digital learning environment, there are a whole host of museums and zoos around the world that do virtual tours of their particular facilities, and you could do that with your child. I know Figgy, for example, has a little project that they're working on where they're asking you to sort of mimic your favorite artwork, and what a fun exercise. And what an enriching exercise for students to expand their horizons and do things, but most importantly, to do things with their parents, which I think is a nice connection that perhaps we don't always have in this very busy society that we have.
That's right. And now this is, sometimes I think in history, when bad things happen or things we don't expect, it's terrible as this is. And as you said, we're working through it. But it brings out some interesting qualities in people, many good. I mean, I see the compassion that folks are having with other people, that they might not have anything to think about, but now oh my gosh, I didn't realize that. And how they look at things in this environment that we're in, and how that connection with humans is so important. It's just bringing out some qualities I think will be wonderful going forward in whatever environment we're at. So.
Well, and I'll give you another example of that is the level of creativity and innovation that we're seeing as we're starting to solve these novel problems that we haven't had before. That's going to benefit us down the road, because now we're starting to think outside of our normal frame of reference of education and what that looks like. And everyone, when we come back to school for next year, and it's going to look a lot different, we're going to be different. And it's really an opportunity for us to take advantage of. But the creativity has been amazing in the last 3 weeks.
Thank you. So we talk about, or some folks, you talked about a little bit, what next year is going to look like, especially people are at the beginning of school. So I tell them I doubt we'll be the same. I don't think we'll be the same forever, probably. We'll obviously get back to our buildings. We'll get back to our places. But what that's going to be, especially at the beginning, might not be what we usually think the start of school is. So maybe if you could talk about that a little bit.
Well, the one thing I've learned over the last few weeks is try not to look in the crystal ball, because it's probably going to be wrong. So we're trying to be as flexible as we can, and building flexibility into our learning platform moving forward. I do expect that our school year more than likely will start earlier than normal. As we heard from our governor on Friday, we now have local control and local discretion as to when to start our school year. Knowing that there's been some lost time over the course of the last few weeks, so we need to make that up, especially, now granted, our seniors are moving on to their next post-secondary opportunity, but for the students that are staying with us, can we extend the school year? What can we do to make up for some of those learning standards that perhaps we didn't hit as hard as we would like to from a mastery perspective? So I do expect that we will be starting earlier, but I do expect that, we're a one-to-one district, and I think now we now have a better understanding of what the capabilities of that could be from a learning perspective. So I agree with you completely. I think learning will evolve and grow into something bigger and better as we go into the next school year. But excited for that opportunity, but at the same time, change is difficult, and we have to make sure that we manage that appropriately, especially from the affective side of the coin.
Thank you. The next question was when's the anticipated start? You mentioned that probably earlier. I don't want to pin you on a date, but we usually start the middle or later in August, probably the beginning or earlier of August now, I would anticipate. Is that fair?
That's what we're looking into right now. And it's obviously, as you can imagine, there are a lot of details that need to be worked out, constituents that need to be part of the conversation within the community. Sports season, when does that, there's a whole lot of moving parts to making a decision like that. But what I would tell our community members is I would anticipate an earlier start than we've had in the past, perhaps even up to 2 weeks earlier.
Okay, thank you. And then just a couple more thoughts. Let's see. Childcare has been a big part. Another thing that you guys have done and stepped up immediately and transitioned to that, the offer, for example, to the first responders here in Davenport to help with that. And just as we go forward again, do you see, and again, I always caveat this with nothing's normal anymore, nothing's the same. So what's your thoughts on childcare as we go forward, either with the school district or the combination of, or what you've heard about that environment?
Sure, and we know it's a need. It's not at all dissimilar to the need for nutrition in the meals piece. Right. So as a school system, it's part of our conversation. It's part of our community responsibility. As you said, we were ready to participate and help out in any way we could, whether it was first responders or any other constituency that needed help from a child care perspective, because we know that that's an important part of how our society functions. We will do our part as a school system, whatever that looks like. And if it needs to look different, we'll help in that transition into whatever that looks like. But I can assure our entire community that whatever the need is, we will roll up our sleeves and meet that need.
And we appreciate that again. I keep going back to it, and I said this to a lot of folks as I communicate, whatever issue comes up, whatever challenge comes up, childcare, feeding, whatever, the city, the school, the mentality of how can I help, how can we help do this, what can we change to make it work is there. So probably one final thing, the city and the school, we're a partnership. I love the relationship that we have and how we try and support each other. But in this environment and as we move forward, or the remote learning or anything that's different, if you have any thoughts now, but I'd certainly ask what the city can help in that respect for the education process of Davenport as we change or adjust or move, what we can do to help. Or vice versa, we communicate to work together. And I will say to the community that over the last few years, the relationship has evolved and changed in a wonderful way. And I look forward to continuing, but that's a long-winded answer, is what can we do to our question to help with that?
Well, to that long question, I have a short answer, and it's really a two-way relationship, and it's symbiotic. We benefit from each other. The piece that is so helpful to us as a school district is our ability to rely on this community to communicate with each other, whether that's through social media channels, through our formal channels as a school district, but also to partner with the city in helping. Just this session alone is eminently helpful for us to get our message out to the community as to what to expect, what's going on. Our reach isn't universal when it comes to the city perspective. So all the communication channels that you have at your disposal from a city perspective is helpful to us. Anything that we can do with our communication channels to help you, because again, you alluded to this in the very beginning, our ability to communicate with each other during this time is paramount, and we have to be able to have our constituents understand what's going on, be able to ask questions, and we need to stay connected so that we can meet those needs that we've been discussing for the last 20-some minutes.
Thank you, Doctor. I've appreciated our conversations in the past as you've moved to our community and taken the reins of a big part of what we do here is educate our youth, because they'll be hopefully not in this situation, but sitting here in these positions in the future. So
Absolutely.
anything we can do to help with that. So on behalf of the city and myself and the city hall, we appreciate the work and the adjustments and the flexibility that you and your staff and the school system has accomplished to continue the education in a different way, but to again, with the mantra of, I have it over here, safe, stable, and welcoming community. That's what we do in Davenport. The relationship with the schools, how do we help? How do we work together? And I always say when I have done these things, this might be the 8th one now, I put my number up, say, call me. I know we communicate and we talk to each other. So I think that's the big thing in Davenport. As you're listening, whether you're a parent, student, or citizen, or whatever your business, know that the school system and the city are working together. We're with you. We've said that. I know sometimes people think that government folks say things, but in this case, I truly believe, both in this building and up the road a little bit, quite frankly, we're close to each other in proximity, actually. So we're with you. We are committed to working through this pandemic. We're committed to, in this case, helping our students have a learning environment. We're committed to the doing the city's business. And again, if you have any questions, please call. I will call you back. We will find answers if it's related to the schools based on this or whatever. I'll get with them. We'll make sure you get answers to your questions. So, Doctor, again, I thank you very much for taking a few moments to help us communicate in another way to everybody here in a critical part of our community, our schools, our students, our teachers, and what's going forward, especially during this pandemic. And I hope we evolve and get out of this in some way. But most people talk about it won't be exactly the same, but thanks for your flexibility, your school district's work in educating. So if there's any final words, I'll leave it to you then.
Well, I'd just like to say again, thank you for this opportunity, but also thank you to the staff. This isn't Dr. Kabilski's excellent adventure. There are so many fingerprints on all the projects that are going on in this district. And it's a testament to our staff that has really decided to roll up their sleeves because they understand the importance of the community. So a deep sense of gratitude to my staff, but also to our parents and to our students who have been patient with us over these last 3 weeks. We know you have very high expectations for your students, so do we, and our intention is to meet those in the coming days, weeks, and months ahead. So I look forward to Sunday seeing you face to face very soon, and please be well.
Be safe, Davenport. Call me if you have questions. Thank you.